Welcome back, and today we are going to be playing out the Me-163. It's the 8.0 version with the 30mm, and I decided to just do 4 or 5 games depending on how it goes, and just upload all of them regardless of what ended up happening. What ended up happening? Well, you'll just have to see to find out. The Me-163 in essence is very easy to play. You essentially just kill everything that you catch, which is quite a decent amount of vehicles. They can't really do much other than run away from you and hope that you run out of fuel, or maybe that you can't hit them because these guns are slow as balls. When they do hit, they do disintegrate virtually everything they touch. However, you still have to hit them. If you shoot anywhere beyond like 300 meters, by the time your shells actually reach your enemy, they have probably established an entire family with possibly some grandchildren along the way. Now you can fly a variant with slightly faster guns, they don't hit as hard. And it's a much higher BR, so your advantage of killing everything that you catch still remains, but you will be catching a lot less enemies. And if you run into something like an F-104, you can just forget it. It is simply not happening. We fly this thing as a bit of an ambush fighter, and everyone that's going relatively slow or busy with someone else, or just someone that you can park behind because they are not paying attention to you, you can get very close to them. And once you get very close to people, they are dead most of the time. Now, if they are faster than you and they will outrun you quite quickly, they can kind of just bob and weave. And as I said, the shells are slow enough to literally be dodged after you see the muzzle flash. So it's very easy to stay alive versus this thing. Granted, if you have comparable speed. If any plane that goes above 900, it's basically not worth chasing them unless they are going slow at that moment and you can simply just catch them right off the bat. Even if something like an F-84B is going max speed, it's not worth chasing it. It simply costs too much fuel and you need to be aware of that. You need to know when to break off from people and just let them go. You cannot be greedy in this thing, because in general, the more greedy you are in this, the less kills you will be receiving, because it just costs you too much resources. And energy is also another resource. Once you are on the deck and you are going like 600, you can dodge everyone all day long, but you are now forced to basically go full throttle. And this will cost you fuel, and you only have 6 minutes from takeoff, you don't have the airspan anymore, so now you need to conserve it a little bit better. Now there is a trick to use your fuel quite sparingly right now as well. I just throttled up, but if you have the throttle on like 30%, it doesn't use 30% of the fuel, it uses less. The fuel efficiency when it comes to throttling down in rocket planes is an absolute joke. It's the same thing with the BI, for example, where you run it on like 15 to 20% throttle, and the fuel lasts you like 15 times as long. So take that into consideration. You want to get close, you don't want to waste too much time, and you don't want to waste too much fuel. But here comes the advantage of something like the 163. Big ass furballs. I am now on low fuel, and the fuel burn of this thing is important. When you just take off, this thing is extremely heavy. Rocket fuel is heavy. It's extremely dense, and it weighs you down a lot. And because this plane is so small and so light, it will affect you quite tremendously. Once you get below 3 minutes of fuel, this thing turns into an absolute menace. And you will tell, just like right here, this guy was shooting at me like 2 turns ago, and now I'm already on his 6. He's gonna be way too slow to really do anything. I'm also gonna have quite a hard time hitting this guy. We take his plane apart, and then we re-engage the F9F that flew away for a few seconds. Not sure why he did so, but I'll take it gladly, because he is going to make it so that I can actually try and win this fight. And this is the first game I did in the 163 in like a year, so my aim is a little bit rusty, but it will come together a little bit later on throughout the video. F9F comes in, I'm going about 750, so I just kind of pull up over his nose and I bait him into the vertical. And if he does take it, well, he dies. But if he doesn't, he still dies, because I had enough energy coming into that fight. So I can allow myself to go vertical, give myself a lot of position, and then I can simply just dive after him. Now, if this was the start of the game, I might maybe not chase him like I am right here. However, it's the end. I have plenty of ammo left, and there is only 2 guys left, so I don't have to worry about my energy, my fuel, and my ammo as much. So I can kind of just throttle drop on the 6. And if you do that, I mean, you're not gonna get away in the F9F. You can't really try to reverse him. It's kind of what you have to do. The annoying part with the 163 is most of the time, if you have it on your 6, you're kind of forced to try and reverse it. At least, obviously, if you can't outrun it. The issue is that the 163 can just throttle drop and instantly get on your 6. Now, if he does that, it is game over. So most of the time, you're better off just trying to keep absolute max speed and just kind of bob and weave his guns until he runs out of fuel, ammo, or patience, or all of the above. Is this a fun dynamic to fight? No, it is not, and it's the same thing with something like the Ariete, the Yak-23, the BI, and all those planes that are basically, if you can't run from it, you are going to die regardless of how bad your enemy is. And in my opinion, these planes have no place in the game, but I'm not going to be debating that. It does kind of work, but the issue is that it takes so much to kill one of them, and even if the plane is much faster, it basically turns into high-speed head-ons until one of you finally dies. Now, I don't think this is a great gameplay loop, but you know, I get that we want these planes in the game, they have a lot of historical value, and they are definitely cool vehicles. But when it comes to the actual gameplay, it is extremely mid. One of them gets absolutely pissed because the other guy just runs away, and the other one gets pissed because he can't do anything but run away. And if you take the fight, you instantly lose. And if you don't take the fight will last you like another 6 minutes until this thing finally runs out of fuel. Of course, if 163s make massive mistakes, and if you are on a much faster plane and you come in from an altitude advantage, for example, you can definitely kill it. It's not an unkillable plane. It's not some kind of menace that rocks every match it's in, that is completely overpowered and all that kind of stuff. That's not the issue here. It's not that it's too good. It's just the gameplay loop is frustrating for both ends. How often do you not see 163s yell at their enemies that they need to stop running and that they need to dogfight them and basically give the win to the 163? Whereas the other party is like, what do you want me to do? The second I turn with you, you are on my 6. So they're just annoying planes to fly and to fight. But they are in the game and we have to deal with them. So how do you deal with this plane? Short story. Team play. Or you need a plane that's just much faster with guns that you can actually kind of spray. 163s are annoying to hit. They're small, they're very agile, especially along the later games. So I try to focus these planes at the start of the match, where they are maybe busy with someone else. They are maybe not going that fast, or they are just not paying attention. You want to kind of third party them. Because if these things are actually like paying full attention to you, and they are somewhat competent, you are probably not gonna be killing them very easily until they eventually run out of fuel. However, if the 163 pilot actually knows what they are doing, they're probably gonna run out of fuel like 10 to 15 minutes into the game, unless they are just completely overwhelmed and it's something like a 1v7. But I mean, that's not very realistic. Overall, the 8.0 compression is absolutely insane. You get quite a bit of down tiers, and even in the up tiers you fly this thing virtually the same way, except you have to play it a little more daringly. You have to whack your ass in front of people, make them want to get on your 6, and then you can kind of just reverse them. Most people will stick for a little bit, and if they stick long enough to the point where they get slow enough, you can simply just chase them down, and they will probably not survive to tell the tale. And in general, 8.0 is just a bit of a farmhouse right now, and it doesn't really matter what you fly, even if you fly something rather mediocre like the C2B, for example. You're just gonna be farming people all day long, because, well, you're gonna be running into either 8.0 and 7.0s, and when you do get up tier, it's mostly all the way up to 8.7, because no one really flies 9.0, and 8.7 America, let me tell you, is like 90% A for reach. So you can understand why it's so free, but actually let's look at some gameplay, because in the background for right now, nothing really has happened, or at least not anything that really requires any kind of input. I'm kind of just looking where everyone is and staying out of their guns, and if I stay out of their guns long enough, they are gonna be dying. And there's the FADC, the first guy from this game, or this video I should say, that actually has a little bit of a semblance of a clue on what to do, and that is just ignore the 163 if he has any kind of position. If you are equal or at a disadvantage especially, just lag it, just get away from it. You'll come back later to it when it's either out of fuel, out of ammo, out of speed, or it's just going at like, it's like in a 1v3 or something. You don't want to contest these things unless you can go fast and you can go head on. If you engage these things with an absolute massive energy disadvantage, you want to be as aggressive as possible, because the longer you take, the more time you give this plane to actually equalize again. If I come head on with this thing going like 1000 and the ME-163 is going like 600, 700, I will just go straight up. It might have a rocket motor, but it will not be catching you with that big of a gap. Absolutely fantastic. I shut up for a second because I just wanted you to witness that absolute stellar gameplay. That is very prevalent at this BR. And you might say, well, you're overreacting. That's the case at like every game or every match, every BR. It's just a staple of War Thunder. But let me show you. It happens all the time. And it's pretty hilarious, but it's also pretty sad at the same time. And I understand it, these lower tier jets just have no real way of killing the higher tier stuff. So I understand one side of it, but everyone does it. And it makes it hard for me to get like interesting footage, because everyone is just trying to get themselves killed in the easiest way as imaginable. And it makes sure that I don't really have to do anything. Now he almost hits the first tower, then I go for the shot. And I almost end up hitting the second tower because, well, I'm too busy tunneling on the guy that is on fire. F80 comes in, look behind me again. He actually manages to get a singular 50 cal in. We instantly reverse him, but we don't manage to hit the shot. Now the issue is, for him, it's like 1v6 and the 163 is a plane that he will not be killing, even if it's 1v1. Now that's a very ambitious shot. I'm never expecting that to hit. These shells, after like 400-500 meters, I feel like they just fall straight out of the air with the drag changes, and the drag properties of these shells are basically the same as that of a dinner plate. When you hold it like flat side up against the wind, they're not very drag efficient. They are basically flying parachutes, and that's okay, but you have to be aware of it. And they do go decently far. They can like float into someone. But people actually start outrunning them if they are going fast enough. Now we have this F80 that has been running away. You saw that I basically can't compete with that. And he just kind of turns in to take the fight to us because he knows he's not going to win. It's like 1v6 or whatever. And he's just going to try to get like a singular kill out of it. And you can tell that he's still faster. And because he's at like 400 meters, I can't really do anything. Now he's going to attempt another turn because, well, he knows he has lost and he is trying to do something against multiple people. I'm trying to not hit the third, the fourth, and maybe even the fifth tower. This guy is doing the same thing. And eventually he's just gonna get too slow because he's too busy dodging everyone. And I'm just gonna kind of sit on this 6 and wait for the shot. Until, well, eventually we can just kind of click him out of the air. You know, it's not that hard to tilsit people with this thing. It's more dangerous because you have to get so close. And your teammates will just kind of shoot through you. You know, just the usual stuff, but with this thing it's particularly annoying because you really have to tilsit people, because like full deflections and stuff are not something that this thing necessarily specializes at, because these shells are so damn slow. There you go, another full commit head-on, they hit each other. Man, absolutely fantastic. F9F, is he gonna do the same thing? No, because the LA200 is actually paying attention to something else, and the F9F just kind of flies directly in front of me, so we click him out of the air. And we continue. Who are we going to be fighting? We have a meteor and a vampire. And then also something on the left. It's the F80, I think. Yes, it is. And it doesn't really matter what we engage here, because I have the energy to kind of do whatever the hell I want. I'm just going to dodge the vampire because he's actually paying attention. And the meteor is somewhat AFK. He comes back into the game after I've merged. So it kind of messes up my loop. So now I have to break off a little bit. Get some separation, and after that I can just kind of put it into a spiral. And I see that LA200 coming in, so I just think to myself, I'll set him up, and if he doesn't take it, well, he's gone and I am safe as well. So either way what happens, I'm gonna be fine. Meteor gets cleaned up, and we are just gonna go for the next target. Who do we go for? It kind of just depends. F-84s are something that I want to kill in this thing at the start, because at late game it's the same thing as in reverse. If the F-84 knows you are there, you are not going to be killing it very easily, simply because he can just run away from you. And the same way, the F-84 can't really kill me if I'm paying attention to him. So it basically just turns into a head-on stalemate where the, well, F-84 has a bit of an advantage. Here comes another full commit head-on with the J-29. He actually gets the kill this time. He's not paying attention at all, and I just kind of park up a 6. Second guy flies underneath me, go in for the shot, notice that he's pulling in, so I just kind of dodge so I don't end up ramming him out of the air, because, well, ramming people is not necessarily very healthy. And I know that I have the room here to just go vertical after this guy, but I'm not gonna risk it, because that F-84 is going decently quick. The F-80 already has like 1 or 2 guys on him, so I'm just gonna leave him. I'm just gonna fly away. F-80 isn't that big of a threat, so I'll instead go for people that I want to kill right now, which is essentially 50% of the world population. But I noticed that the vampire is dogfighting the LA200, and the LA200 beforehand in this game, he paid attention to me. He helped me with killing the guy that was on my 6, the meteor. So now I'm gonna return the favor and make sure that he doesn't die to the vampire that he just went into a dogfight with. Vautour in front of us, and that's something that I want to kill because it's way too fast, but I'm not gonna be catching him. He's way too quick. So instead, I'm just gonna kill the rest of his team, the F-80 and the F-84G, so that the Vautour's main advantage doesn't exist anymore. The Vautour is good at coming in, third partying, just kind of coming in from nowhere and shooting someone down. But if I kill his team, then guess what? Everyone is going to be looking at the Vautour, and the Vautour doesn't have the element of surprise anymore. Now the F-84 just kind of disappeared for a second off the screen, but I know that he isn't going to be able to commit to us just yet. He goes vertical, he's trying to fly away, and he kind of just let his F-80 die. I mean, he couldn't really help him either, but he needs to keep that guy alive, because right now, this is not a fight that he is going to be very easily winning. He goes head on with the LA-200. He doesn't even have to shot. LA-200 just kind of digs him down. Vautour flies over us. I should have hit that, but I don't lead enough. And the Vautour gets away with it. Now the Vautour flies back to the airfield. And we are going to be flying back to their airfield as well. I still have 2 minutes of fuel. And, well, plenty of ammo. Half of which just disappeared trying to spray at the Vautour again. But unfortunately he got away. So I'm going to go towards their meteor. The Vautour is going to die very soon here, so this is the last kill of this game. I'm going about 700 kilometers an hour. He is climbing, we are below him. All we need to do really is just kind of pitch up into him. And it doesn't really matter what he does. Now he does the absolute worst thing, and he tries to go vertical. He needs to try and run away. But anyway, it gave me a little bit of ASMR that you will have to experience now for yourself. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.